bring you into the conversation now because COVID-19 has caused a lot of disruptions in our world of sports, and it has brought nothing but a growing uncertainty. Will it be? Will it not be? In Nigeria, for instance, we're waiting for the Nigeria Professional Football League to come back after it was suspended March the 18th, Cecilia. After March the 25th, the LMC said, look, we can't risk it. COVID-19 is no joke. So it was called off. We loved it, safety concerns. But some countries in Africa, they said, look, we don't know how long this is going to take. And so let's just cancel it. And Africa is not just that on the list. In Europe, a lot of leagues have been called off. Belgium called off. I think Holland called off. France, the biggest
top
called
five.
off, you know. So let's just run through some African countries that have canceled the league and then now bring into the Nigerian context later on the program where we'll have our special guest. So you understand what COVID-19 has done to sports, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa and indeed the world. I think the first country that announced cancellation was Angola.
Mauritius. April 6th. They didn't wait at all. They feel, okay, let's just reach a decision and know that we can't do this. So at the end of the day, so they decided to like, okay, end it. And but then they don't have a representative for CAF yet. Kenya followed. That was April 30th, and Angola almost the same time. And before you know it, Guinea followed up, same April 30th, Burkina Faso followed, Ethiopia. All of them started calling off other leagues. Congo, Liberia, Gambia Football Federation is the latest, and of course South Sudan also joined in that order.
So there you have it, African leagues and COVID-19. These are the countries that have already cancelled their league. We're still waiting for the Nigeria Professional Football League, Plateau United. They were on top of the league table just right after March Day 25, and the league was suspended. Let's go to our studio in Abuja. The chairman of the league management company, Dikko, joins us now on the program as we take a look at the growing uncertainty with league football in Nigeria. Good morning, Dikko. Let me say happy Eid al-Fitr or Eid Mubarak. Good to have you on Sports this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the good wishes. I think we had a very good fasting period, at least under the lockdown. So it was quite easy this time around.
Awesome. Good to have you back. And this is the right time. So I said, let's not go and bring Dikko when he's fasting, and then he won't be able to answer us. So we waited for the fasting period to end, and then we'll bring you here and ask you some questions. Last month, the LMC had a virtual meeting with club owners. Tell me some of the deliberations that were made, particularly in terms of concluding or continuing with the current league season.
Well, I think basically that conversation with the clubs, with the members of the LMC, is prelude to the meeting with the NFF and the Minister of Sports, all discussing the same issue. What are we going to do under these circumstances? How are we going to move forward, subject to how the country reopen and whatever happens? So basically, the conversation is to get the commitment of the parties that yes, we are ready to see that if we can move forward with the season, fine and good, but subject to all the condition precedents being met. And then we agree that any further decision will be based on the fact that when the country reopens, when the government approved that football can go ahead, or when the NFF approved that football can return to the country, and then based on the time that we have available, maybe with the CAF competition, with the CAF deadlines, and then we can take a decision to see what kind of format and what kind of ways or options we can take to see that we end the season. But the benchmark of the consideration is the fact that whatever decisions we are going to take must be based on the sporting merits and sporting fairness. So that's basically where we are at that time. And you know, nobody is sure what's going to happen tomorrow, because as the authorities are still working, dealing with the effect of the COVID. So that's the decision that we took at that time, and I think it is still valid at this point in time.
Okay, you just mentioned that you have to wait for the sports ministry, the federal government, when sports will go ahead and all. Don't you think it's actually wise to have those plans in place before the federal government or even the ministry can decide to say, okay, sporting activities can resume?
Well, I can tell you we already have our plans. Even at that time, we discussed several plans and several options. As we speak, we have 4 options on the table, and those options are being discussed at the highest level. Even last week, we are having a lot of deep conversation with the government, with the NFF president, and everybody evaluating the options. So we already have our options available. We already have our timelines available. We have already been putting this forward to the clubs and everybody. But it depends at the end of the day what happens. So already the plans are there already. In fact, we are quite ahead of everybody that are thinking about it. We have our plans. If you can allow me, the first option that was looked at is, okay, can the league be able to resume normally, play home and away, finish the season, 13 games, match days remaining? Well, that's the first option, but that is really a long shot based on what is happening. Because even if the country reopens today, you are not sure you are going to have a chance to have interstate travels and the health of the players and everybody involved. So that's option number one. Option number two is to see that, okay, is there a possibility to move the teams to a particular area, particular state, where we have like 3 stadiums that are not more than 2 hours within themselves, so that we can all stay there within maybe 6-7 weeks. We can all finish all the matches remaining in neutral venues. That's another long shot, because the teams have to move there, they have to be quarantined, they have to be tested, and then the financial demands on the clubs. Will any club be able to go and stay outside their zone for 1 month, play matches every other 2 days or every other 3 days? That's the second option also that is on the table. But the third option
we'll
is...
We'll pause you right there, Shehu Dikko. We'll go on this quick break. Okay. When we come back, we'll jump into option 3 and 4. It's posted this morning on Channels Television. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports This Morning on Channels Television, and we're taking a look at the possible return of the Nigeria Professional Football League. The league has been suspended since March the 18th due to the coronavirus pandemic. We have the chairman of the league management company, Shehu Dikko, is right there in our Abuja studio. He's been taking a look at different options they have in place for a possible return of the league. And he has mentioned option 1 and 2. Shehu Dikko, good to still have you on the program. Let's get into option 3 and 4, please.
Well, Austin, as I was saying, option 3 is the fact that based on the situation, based on the time available, and based on the realities on ground, we just end the league as it is today, and then adjust the table using the points per game system, and then have so that we can adjust the teams that have outstanding games and bring all the teams at par, and then we can go on and do a playoffs of maybe Super 6 to determine the champion and the people that will go to the continent. Because the playoff would now be in one venue and will be 6 teams, and so that can be easily controlled. The health of the players can easily be controlled, and it's a one venue event, a 10 days event, so that we can decide the winners and the other CAF competitions representatives. And then the third option is to, if the country cannot open, the time is not available, government are not going to allow any football to continue based on the health issues on the ground, is to end the league as it is today, and then do the adjustment of the table using the points per game system to bring all the teams at par, so that the sporting merits and the sporting fairness can be obtained, and then the first 3 or 4 teams will now go and represent Nigeria in the continent, depending on what the NFF decides.
And the question is, you talked about 4 options, right? Now, which of these options are the clubs really in tune with? Because we've spoken with some of the league chairmen, and some of them are saying that they don't want outright cancellation no matter what happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, based on the conversation, not just the clubs, I think even around the NFF leadership, even around the government authorities, I think based on what is happening, we can see the COVID is always increasing daily, so nobody is sure what is going to happen, when the curve is going to be flattened. So basically, I think the most feasible option is option 3 at the moment. That will see us going for the playoffs, at least to have a fair chance of giving the top teams a chance to compete for the title, and then also the CAF competitions. So I think for now, that is what I think should be on the agenda, most likely. But all the 4 options are on the table. We will have a conversation with the NFF, and then we present it to the government, and then a collective decision will be taken, basically directed by the government. At the end of the day, it is what the government feel they can support, what the government feels can be achievable, what everybody feels the health of the players and the health of the officials and everybody involved can be guaranteed. That will go forward. But I think at the moment, based on the timing, based on the issues, I think the playoff option is the most feasible based on the circumstances. And I think using with the points per game table being considered to eliminate the issues of somebody have 5 games remaining, somebody have 2 games remaining, somebody have 1 game remaining. The points per game bring everybody at par. And this is the same standard that was used by maybe the French League, for example, when they were ending, the Scottish League when they were ending, that's what they used. Even the Premier League already have prepared their own points per game table, should in case they are not able to start their season. So the issue of fairness to all the teams, once that is applied, is not brought to the table. Now is to decide what position to take. The playoffs, what kind of playoffs are you going to do? What kind of system will adopt in that? The number of teams that you want to throw in there and stuff like that. Because it's one venue we are going, and that could be easily be controlled. And then at the end of the day, we'll have deserving clubs that will go and do good for Nigeria in the continent.
Dikko, let's talk about that CAF deadline that they gave to their member countries, that they should come up with plans of either concluding or continuing their leagues. Some African countries have cancelled their leagues. What did Nigeria say to the Confederation of African Football?
Well, you know, it's always good to say in this kind of situation, Nigeria have an advantage because I personally sit on the CAF Interclubs Organizing Committee and the Club Licensing Management Committee. So it is a committee dealing with these issues. So I have first-hand information on what is going on. The NFL president sits on the CAF Executive Committee as well, so he knows what is going on. He sits on the FIFA Organizing Committee for competitions. He knows what is going on. I sit on the FIFA Stakeholders Committee. So we know what is going on, so we can take informed decisions based on informed information that maybe some other people doesn't have. What CAF we are looking at that moment is the countries to tell them whether do you intend to continue your league, and if you intend to do it, what is the possible timelines? Because CAF wants to know the timelines from all the leagues out of the database, so they too can come up with a timeline on when they want to complete their own interclub competition for this year, and also when they could direct for next season to start. So basically, our submission to CAF is very simple. Based on the meetings we had with the NFF Executive Committee, the meeting we had with the minister, the meeting we had with the clubs, that look, Nigeria intend to find a way to complete the season one way or the other. With the format is not known at that time. And the idea is whenever the country reopens, at that time, if you remember, we said within 8 weeks, we should be able to come up with a format to complete the season. So we're still at that, at that position. And that is the reason why we now come up with this, with these options, because even UEFA, for example, they gave their members the option to either go for the playoffs or try to complete the seasons, because they want always the sporting merit to decide who represents the countries in the continental competitions. So that's basically what we are going to do, and I think our target and objective is hopefully everything could be okay in the country, could be a bit fine, that we could get the go ahead. Last week of June, for example, or July, we can get the clubs back to training mid-July, and then the end of July we can go for the playoffs, and early August we finished, which should be the same time that all the leagues around the world are targeting to finish by August.
Okay, interesting. I mean, this is good because you just mentioned that our training may start in July, then August you're thinking of finishing the season. That's if government directive comes to play, where they will ask all sporting activities can resume in the country. Let me go to the issue of welfare. The last meeting the LMC and, of course, the chairman of clubs and all that held, it was affirmed during that meeting that they're committed to paying salaries of players and all that. They don't have any intention of actually cutting the wages of these players. Now, just 2 weeks ago, we heard that MFM have actually reduced the salaries of their players, even without informing them. Is the LMC aware of this?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that is speculation because I have not got any official document to say so. I have not got any official document from any player to say so. So that is social media speculation. Remember, FIFA have given a clear directive, a clear guidelines on how clubs and teams can be able to manage this situation. And part of the option is, yes, they can call their players and have a negotiation either to defer salaries or whatever they could do. But that is subject to agreement between the both parties. So I think it can never be a decision that will be taken by just one party without a conversation with the other party. And so far, I haven't heard any complaint from any player of MFM officially to say this is what happened. The MFM have not informed the league to say this is what they have done. So as far as concerned, speculation. There are procedures and regulations of doing these things. I've had conversation with some players from certain teams that have called to say, oh, how far with our position, with our salaries? I had time to engage the club chairman, and they have all make sure they resolve the issues. So there are procedures with these issues, and I think we should not be commenting on what basically should be taken as rumors for now, I think. But it's within the regulation if they do that, if the players agree to defer their payments or half of it till when the pandemic is under control and so that they could be able to be paid. Because if the players now come and insist that they have to be paid 100% and the club is not able to do it and the club goes under, the player still goes under with the club. So there has to be a balance between the two parties. But what we are all interested in and what we are pushing is everybody has to get his own dues, has to be paid, and we are happy. Most of the clubs have done what they have to do. They have been paying their players. We haven't had much complaint about it, and it's quite exceptional. We have to congratulate the clubs and the government that owns the club and the owners of the club that are pushing for this. Some clubs are even paid already made salary. So at least they are being very, very, very humane and pushing to make sure everything is okay. And a reason for this is because most of the clubs have their salaries coming along with the civil servants in their states. So once the civil servants are being paid, I'm sure the clubs will be paid as well. Even though the club players are earning much, much more than the civil servants, but at least it's being done. I'm sure if the players are not being paid properly or they're being or too much, we'll have had a lot of complaints so far.
That's some good relief. But let's take it a step further and think about post-COVID-19. I was listening to Gary Neville, and he was charging the English Premier League that they should start thinking about ways they can support clubs because COVID-19 has come so hard on some of those clubs. In Nigeria, are we thinking about that? Do you have plans to give support to teams right after the league comes back that cannot jump into it right away?
Well, those things are subject of cash flow. Remember, we had cash flow that we are expecting from certain sponsors that, unfortunately, because of the COVID, it could not come. But I'm sure once the league is being restarted, those cash flows could be able to come. And definitely, if we have the cash flow, we'll have to support clubs. But we are having conversations beyond just that, supporting that. I think the NFF president, Honorable Minister of Sport, Honorable Sandro Dare, have taken a very, very keen interest about what is going on. I can tell you we have been having so much behind-the-scenes meeting, and the objective is to see what we could do post-COVID, not just supporting the clubs, but also making the league to go to the next level. So we should. There's a lot of support that might come, both maybe technical, operational, financials, and stuff like that, because we are trying to let the top people realize that all over the country, all over the world, these elite leagues and other leagues are very, very fundamental part of the economic development system, because they keep a lot of people in the job, they keep a lot of the country happy, they keep a lot of people engaged and stuff like that. So it should not be allowed to just run like that on its own. You can see even last week, I think the House of Commons, also in the UK, they push a motion that, look, government have to come with a special support for football, not to allow some clubs to be able to go under, because of the importance they have put to the whole football structure in these sports. And I think we are not left behind on this. I don't want to preempt what the minister is thinking and what he's doing, but I can assure you there's a lot of conversation across board, right from the NFF hierarchy to the ministry to the top government hierarchy, to see that we take advantage of these COVID issues and see how we can move our football to make it much, much, much better. So that is why we keep saying there is always a silver line in somewhere where we can build on to see that we take advantage of these disruptions to make it positive. And I think at the end of the day, everybody will be happy with what the NFF, the LMC, and the ministry will come forward with going forward.
Further, in Botswana, for instance, I mean, the Football Association and also the Ministry of Sport have decided to kind of subsidize, players' salary, just help them during this time. Then they're actually using the FIFA Relief Fund also to do that. Now, the NFF, I mean, was it 2 weeks ago, or they had a meeting and $500,000, that's what the NFF quoted that was given to them by FIFA. Are we going to see the NFF, I mean, you are one of the vice presidents of Nigerian Football Federation. Are we going to see that money also being spent on the players or maybe the league, or how is it going to be disbursed?
But you can see we have a different football system in this country, and I think we have to be proud of it. We can't be bringing ourselves down to the level of other smaller countries like that. People have been sharing, for example, what the Gambia have done and stuff like that. How much are they giving clubs? $1,200. That is about 800,000 naira or thereabout, or 700,000 naira. Is there any professional club in Nigeria, like in the NPFL, that 800,000 naira will make a difference to? I think that cannot even pay one player. There are clubs that are paying a player much, much more than that amount in a month. So we have to realize our situation is quite different. Like for example, the Gambia made the budget of only $10,000 for all the referees for the elite league and the second division. That is 4 million naira. That 4 million cannot pay the cost the LMC pays in a match day to support to pay for the match officials in the league. It costs almost twice about that amount of money. So we have to realize we are operating in a totally different situation, and then so we have to work towards within that kind of parameters. Yes, the NFF have made a clear statement on how and what the FIFA money is all about. Everybody knows about it, and I think we should not be flogging that issues. The NFF is clear how the money could be allocated, subject to what the FIFA has approved. And part of it, at least, is announced that we'll go to support the Women's League, we'll go to support the refereeing training, we'll go to support some of the Men's League. So at least we are all in tune with that. But for goodness sake, even if the NFF gave the entire 500,000 to the NPFL, you change it. I think no club would get more than 5-6 million naira. The kind of money, some clubs spend that kind of money for a match day expenses to travel away to go and play a match. So we should understand we are really operating in a very big play, the NPFL, regardless of what people think. The clubs are expending quite a huge amount of money. So I think we have to go down the ladder, the way we are having the conversation now with the NFL, with the ministry, to find a sustainable and find a very big situation where the right support and the very big support will come to the club. Yes, if the NFL sends something to the league, of course, we'll have a conversation with the club and see what we could do with it. But based on our decision, our objective is, even if that support comes, we look at the private clubs as quickly as possible to see what we can support them with. Because like you mentioned, the MFM, they're a privately funded club, and which basically relies on maybe get takings and maybe sell the players and maybe support from their own owners to run the club. They don't have any subvention coming from government like the other clubs. If Uber, for example, the same thing. So we decided to see how that could be worked out. But we can't be reducing ourselves to be comparing our system to Mauritius, to Gambia, and stuff like that, just because we want to say this is how the money will be appropriated. I don't think you have any club in Egypt or in South Africa or in all the top leagues in Africa and even Congo shouting over there, waiting for FIFA to come and give them the NFL, the federation to give them the FIFA money and stuff like that. Everything being equal, had it been we have got our financials right, by now it should be the LMC that could have been supporting the clubs, supporting even the other leagues, as we have done before, when we have the cash flow. So I think that's basically the level we want to go back to.
Okay, quickly, NNL, the Nigerian National League, what's happening to that league? Quickly.
Well, the conversation being discussed together with the NFF and everybody is to look at the possibility of what's going to happen to all those leagues based on these circumstances. You can see even most of the developed countries are basically more more focused to finishing the elite leagues, because there's a lot of things involved there, the continental competitions, the finances involved, and stuff like that. Maybe at the end of the day, the decision and the conversation will be to look at whether we can just have a fresh start for those leagues. Let's start afresh and see how they can start a new season and then move forward based on the circumstances on ground, based on when the country reopens. But there are conversations that are on the table of the federation, and to be decided at that point in time. The NLO have not started. The Women League have not started, and the NNL have just started a few games. And I think so. Maybe at the end of the day, it's just to go back to the table and see whether we could have a fresh logistics and have a fresh fund injections or whereabout. Let's have a fresh start with those leagues. Most countries have cancelled the lower leagues. They're only focusing to see whether they could manage to push to conclude the elite leagues, and then quickly they could start. Remember, the new season for next year is basically initially scheduled to start in August 2020 to May 2021. Now maybe it might be October 2020 to maybe May 2021. And the reason why most people are trying to push to finish the elite leagues is because of we have to have representations that will represent the country in the cup competitions. And also there are huge maybe commercial leverage involved that has to be delivered. So I think basically a comprehensive decision will have to be taken, not just on the NPFL, but across all the leagues, including even the ITIA Cup that have not started. Remember, no one game has been played in the ITIA Cup.
So the I'll just pause you. We'll come back to you. Let's just go on this quick break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Don't go anywhere. We're right back. Welcome back to Sports This Morning on your award-winning sports-loving channels television. You can be part of the program. We've just opened a thread on our social media platform on Twitter. We're asking you to join the conversation. We're taking a look at the possibility of the return of the Nigeria Professional Football League. The chairman of the league management company, Dikko, is speaking to us this morning from our Abuja studio. Should it be cancelled or continued? Join the conversation on Twitter. Channels_sports. Let's go back to our Abuja studio. Dikko, COVID-19 has given us a compulsory break, and a lot of persons are looking at ways they can get creative, they can improve. What have we done with this window, particularly in developing league football in Nigeria? We still have issues with infrastructure development. We still have issues with player welfare. Has this window been useful to us in terms of planning so that when we come back, we will look good?
Well, absolutely. I can tell you the window has offered us the opportunity to sit down and review so many things. And as I told you earlier, the NFF, ourselves, and the Minister of Sports have taken this period to have a deep conversation to see what can be done to take things forward. And I think a lot of steps, a lot of decisions, a lot of push will come the way of the league going forward post-COVID. That will ensure that we now eliminate all the gaps that we are noticing here and there, and make sure the leagues now is pushed forward and fast track to development, and everything becomes sustainable. And I think so. I think after this for COVID, there's really going to be a lot of changes that will come the way. Not just changes per se to just change for the sake of change. No, positive changes that will ensure that everybody get better. The clubs in particular, and therefore the players, and therefore the league, and also the football, the fans. So everybody should be happy. And I think we have taken. Everybody has put their thinking caps to see what better suggestions could be put forward to make things better. And I think the way the whole football structure and other things have has found out is coming clear that everybody must look inwards. Because nobody is sure now what's going to happen with all the foreign content that we are all crazy about and stuff like that. So every jurisdiction now must look forward inwards to develop its own system. The same way now government will be pushing to develop the agri sector, to eliminate the imports and everything. We also have to come together to see how we can put all the push and all the ideas forward to also fast-track the development of football structure, and it is sports. And it's quite exciting and gladdening that the Honourable Minister is willing to take the lead, which is basically what is needed. Once the government is taking the lead and the NFF and the league are putting the technical inputs, I'm sure once we work on that direction, we are all moving forward together in the same direction, everything will come together going forward. And therefore, we will take the advantage of this break, of these unintended consequences of the COVID to see that we come out better out of it.
Are we also going to see a situation whereby we'll have, the league back on TV? Are you also using this period to finalize that? Because we know once the league resumes, if it resumes and is played behind closed doors, no one will be saying it.
Absolutely. Part of the conversation is putting the league on TV. And I can assure you there's no way we are going to do playoffs or something without even the TV. So absolutely part of the major conversation and part of the #1 item on the agenda of the conversation is to see how the league will be back on TV. But people keep talking about league back on TV, back on TV. Putting the league back on TV is the most easiest thing. But the most difficult thing is how do you produce the games? We are working in the media. You know how costly it is to produce content. So basically the conversation is how to produce the games and how to make sure that the content is being produced. Distribution to give to all the networks is not a difficult thing. That surely could be done. So the #1 item on the agenda of the conversation is also how to eliminate that challenge of production. And I think there is a lot the private sector and the government could do on that directives. And it's part of what is all being put together. I can tell you, I'm really shocked. Over this period, we have received calls from as far as Australia, for example, for companies and streaming sites and TV stations asking for whether they could get Nigerian league content. I don't know where that is coming from, but it shows that if you can produce the content, if you can produce the globally accepted content, there will be off-takers from the stations, from the streaming sites, from the OTT sites, and across the world that will be ready to have our content stream across the globe. So, but fundamentally, the first step to be achieved is to resolve that content production issue. And without resolving that issue, we'll just be running in circles. We might be able to be putting one game on TV. Is that enough? We need to be putting the entire 10 games on TV the way it is done all over the world, and then put it across all networks, all platforms, from the cable to the free-to-air to the OTT to the mobile and what have you. And then so we can be able to commercialize the content and bring in a lot of resources that will come in, that will go back to the clubs so that they can invest in the infrastructure and the development of the clubs and paying the players. And therefore, we'll have a system that will be up and going. It's the content that will drive everything. Without the content production, we are just not going anywhere. Even the sponsorship that the clubs could get and the sponsorship that the league could get will be driven by if we can have the content available that we can put it on the platforms to show the league. So I think we are going to that level to see that has been resolved. It's part of the transaction we had with our TV partners that we are working with to see how we can resolve that content production issues. And I think if the league returns, we'll have a massive push on that as well.
Sounds good. We can't wait. And that's why we need to, like a beautiful bride, make it look so good so that when it comes on TV, those guys in Australia and other parts of the world will say Nigerian Football League is good. You are also the second vice president of the Nigeria Football Federation. So let's end this conversation this way. What's going on with the contract of Coach Gernot Rohr?
Nothing going on. I think people have overlooked this matter, and I think we have to put it to rest. The last meeting and the decision of the NFF Executive Committee was that the Secretary General have been directed to liaise with the Rohr to finalize the contract. I think all terms have been finalized and things have been agreed. So it's just smaller issues here and there, maybe crossing the T's and the I's, maybe going over the contract to make sure there's not any error, there's not any clause that doesn't mean what it's meant to be. So I think we shouldn't, we are overflowed the matter too much. I think we should just leave it the way it is. Once the the NFL Secretary General and the RO are engaging themselves with the lawyers of the NFF and everybody. And I think once the holiday resumes, this thing should be closed, I guess. So there's no any issue as far as I'm concerned. Okay. We should just leave it at that.
We'll hold on to this one from you. Thank you so much, Shehu Dikko, for your time. Happy Eid al-Fitr once again. And thank you again for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. It's always my pleasure, Austin.
All right, so that's it. The chairman of the league management company, Shehu Dikko. Cecilia, I think it was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it was. I think the one I'm picking is the fact that he says they wouldn't want to have a playoff without having anyone saying it on TV. So at least if the league is going to resume, obviously we're going to see it on TV if we can go to the stadium to watch.
Yeah, particularly if it's the playoff, for instance, the Super Six. So they cheated our team because it's not on TV. They just want to favor this team.
And nobody's watching from the stands.
There you go.
Okay.
There's a lot of issues.
All right.
We have to go.
We just have to. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Cecilia Mogbe. Do have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much for doing this with us. I'm Austin Okonakwan. In everything you do, remember, keep talking sports. Bye for now.